Afternoon and welcome to the Beaufort County Board of Education Business Meeting of July 11, 2023. This meeting is being conducted via hybrid video conferencing and is also being live streamed by the county channel. In accordance with new safety and security guidelines, bags, backpacks, and purses are prohibited at the Beaufort County Board of Education meetings. Requests for public comments participation will be accepted between 5 and 5:30 this evening by sending an email with your name, phone number, and topic to Robin, and that's Robin with a Y, .cushingberry@beaufort.k12.sc.us. You'll receive a phone call during public comments where you'll be able to speak and address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain. The forum will be limited to 30 minutes. If you are in person, you may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain. Speaker must fill out a public comment card. Please see the board clerk for a card. Requests for the second public comments will be accepted this evening between 7 and 7:30 in the same manner. The second public comments will take place prior to adjournment no later than 9 p.m. The second forum is limited to 15 minutes. In the event the board is not finished addressing all the items listed on the July 11, 2023 agenda, the board will reconvene at 6 p.m. on July 12, 2023, the next business day, to finish the agenda items. We now need a motion for the board to go into executive session.
Madam Chair, I move that the board go into executive session for the following reasons. First, employment matter in regarding to personal ratification report pursuant to SC Code Section 30-4-70A1. Secondly, receipt of legal advice regarding safety and security at board meetings covered by the attorney-client privilege pursuant to SC Code 30-4-702.
Okay, motion was made by Vice Chair Guyer and second by Mr. Earl Campbell. Any discussion? Seeing no hands up, all those in favor of going into executive session for the reasons stated, please say aye. Aye. And those of you online, please say your name and your vote.
Hey, aye.
Smith, aye.
We're going to an executive session. 8-0. County Board of Education business meeting of July 11, 2023. Okay, I'll start again. Good evening. And welcome to the Beaufort County Board of Education business meeting of July 11, 2023. This meeting is being conducted via hybrid video conferencing and is also being live streamed by the county channel. In the event the board does not finish tonight's agenda, the agenda will be continued tomorrow night at 6 p.m. The board was just in executive session, and now we are back in public session. Do we have any business or action as necessary or appropriate regarding the matters discussed in executive session?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the superintendent's recommendation for employment listed on the June 1st, 2023, June 30th, 2023 personnel ratification report.
Do we have a second? So Colonel Geyer made the motion and Angela Middleton second the motion. Do we have any discussion? Rob and I have to be able to see the hands over there, but I guess I don't have a tablet with me. All right, there being no hands up, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. And those of you that are remote, just say your name and how you vote, please.
Vote right, aye.
Hey, I.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries unanimously. And we have, Mr. Smith, were you here for the vote? Do we have any further action or business
Madam
if
Chair.
necessary?
I move that the board find that during public comment session of the board meeting on June 27th, 2023, a community member violated board governance policy GC-2-23 and the expectations of the board concerning public comment at board meetings by throwing several objects at the board members and hitting a board members with one of the objects, causing a material disruption of the board meeting. I further move the board issue a written directive to this community member not to further violate the rules for speaking at public comment sessions by taking physically aggressive actions during public comment at board meetings, such as throwing objects at or in the direction of board members or attending members of the public.
Seconds the motion. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and remote participants?
Vote right, aye.
Hey, I.
Right, the motion carries unanimously. The board firmly believes input from its constituents, the citizens of Beaufort County, is essential to its effective and responsible governance of public education in Beaufort County. The board values public comment at its meetings and encourages public participation. This board's commitment to public input and participation is reflected in its public comment sessions during its meetings. To better ensure the safety, security, and good order of these public comment sessions and allow all citizens, including board members, a full and fair opportunity to participate and have their comments considered without undue disruption, threats, or fear of harm, the board has placed reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on public comment through Board Governance Policy GC-2-23. Out of respect for our fellow citizens and to allow all who wish to make public comments to this board an opportunity to be heard, it is essential that the public comment procedures be followed, and we request all commenters and those in attendance to do so. This includes by words or actions not making threats of physical harm, not using obscene language or gestures, not engaging in loud or boisterous behavior disruptive of the meeting, and confining comments to board and school-related topics. The board thanks all of you for your interest in the Beaufort County School District and its students' welfare, and we value your input and comments. In order to better ensure the safety, security, and good order of its school board meetings and allow all citizens a fair opportunity to participate in public comment, Beaufort County Schools Board Governance Policy GC 223-4, Adherence to Public Participation Expectations, Paragraph B, states that, quote, should a participant fail to abide by the reasonable directives of the board's presiding officer, the board may prohibit the offending speaking from participating in future public comment sessions for a period not to exceed 6 months, unquote. We now need a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, Mr. Smith made the motion. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you. Ms. Middleton second the motion. Any discussion? There being none, please, all those in favor say aye.
Boatright, aye.
Kay, aye.
Motion carries unanimously to approve the agenda. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Give me just a minute. All right, we will now have a moment of silence. Reverend Isaac Wayman Wilborn Jr. passed away on June 25th. He was 93 years young. Reverend Wilborn was the principal of the first Hilton Head Elementary School for Black children in 1955. He served as school principal on Hilton Head Island for more than 27 years. In 1988, the school board voted to name the main road to the island's public schools campus Wilborn Road in honor of Reverend Wilborn and his wife, Ramona, who was a teacher for 33 years. Please be seated. The media has been properly notified. All right, first, we now have the first session of public comments, and the first speaker is Mayor Deckard. Speaking on recent security measures.
Standing comment.
Please sit. There's a
Thank you.
chair there for you.
Thank you for your time this evening, board members and the superintendent. I think it's very unfortunate that the public as a whole is having to bear these additional security measures because some people who attend these meetings cannot control themselves or respect the policies and procedures of speaking at public meetings. As you recall, I did speak to you last year about Moms for Liberty when we first learned that they were behind, along with some other groups, this book banning and some other initiatives. And I know it's tempting to dismiss groups like this that act the way that they do, but I think that they represent a real danger to the community as a whole, as we're seeing tonight, that we have limitations placed on our conduct as a whole, even though most of the people attending the meetings are respectful of the board and the procedures. We have more security that the public is likely paying for, the taxpayers. And I just wanted to say that, again, I think that people that come to these meetings and address the board have to be responsible for their behavior. And I think anybody on the board that feels threatened or assaulted in any way should file a police report. And I think those individuals need to be held accountable and not the public at large. And I thank you all for your service and the opportunity to speak tonight.
Next, we have Rob York speaking on books and library.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This is first time I've attended, and I am a father of 5 and a grandfather of 19. One of the great memories I have as a father and my family were those sitting around the kitchen table after we ate dinner, where each one of our children would read books. And these were books they brought home from the library. And each week, a special reading from my kids were allowed, and they would choose the books and the chapters from which they would read. It mattered not whether our first grader or seventh grader did the reading. The entire family participated. After they read their chapters as a family, we would discuss what they read, what they learned, which was enlightening for the entire family. I cannot fathom that today. Can you imagine sitting around a table with your family after dinner and having one of your children select a book that's totally inappropriate to be reading? I can't, but yet my family, my kids could have brought books home if this was the books they had. How about this idea, for those of you who support books in the schools, would you commit to setting aside a special time every week with your family, be it your grandchildren, your children? Let them read books that some consider to be pornographic. And then you sit around and say, let's talk about this to a first grader, second grader, third grader. We did this with our children, not with pornography, but very open discussion, and discussion to which this day they appreciate and they have modeled with their children. You know, I asked rhetorically, raise your hands if you would like to sit around and do this with your children or grandchildren. No hands. I would eagerly raise my hand, but trust me, I shudder at the very thought of doing that today. Our Lord, our God, told us in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 9, and I quote, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generations, those generations who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Woe to those families and our community members who support such indoctrination to young children and the repercussions to the generations to come. This is not about banning books, it's about morality.
Mr. Rook, your time is done. Please stop speaking. Thank you. Next, we have Carol Lucas on choice of books. Carol Lucas, please.
You'll have to forgive me. I wear hearing aids and I don't always hear everything.
No problem.
Before I get started, let me say how much I commend you folks. Yours is a thankless job and perhaps only akin to that of a teacher who is assaulted for doing the kinds of things in curriculum that many find so objectionable. I taught high school English for 32 years in suburban Pittsburgh. And so I guess I've been around the block a little bit and have some knowledge. Let me first say that the moment you ban a book, what you've done as far as kids are concerned is to make that a must read. I've worked with high school kids long enough to know that that is the immediate thing that they will do. Secondly, I guess I'm a little weary of people who have occupied a seat in school for 12 years, suddenly believing that they have the right and they have certainly the capacity to determine what curriculum should be. I would like to say this. I taught To Kill a Mockingbird, and I think that is what probably put me over the edge as far as book banning. Now, fortunately, our folks here have not included that. But my point is simply this: if you don't want your child to read any book, I guarantee you that you can go to the teacher and the teacher will give you a substitute book that meets your specifications, whatever those may be. All you have to do is communicate with the teacher. But no, instead we get into the drama of, I know exactly what I want my child to do. Well, guess what? I have children too, and I was active in their school situations without going in like gangbusters. As for the drama that occurred last week or 2 weeks ago, I didn't see that. But I would say this: if you're so concerned about the books that your child is reading, perhaps you need to be a bit more concerned about the example that you set by doing what you did. Thank you.
Next, we have Ivy Zalai, topic safety and security concerns.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want to talk to you about the situation with Mr. Cook. In the rubric for the review committees, when rating on avoidance of perversive vulgarity, the reviewer is tasked with, when considered as a whole, the novel does not appeal to sexual interest in a shameful way. I constantly get accused of cherry picking excerpts from books and not considering them as a whole. So let's compare that to Mr. Cook's situation. He has been actively engaging the school board on different issues for about 3 years. In those 3 years, he has sometimes been critical of the board or schools, which is his prerogative, but he has always been respectful in the way that he has said things. Why is the school board just focusing on his actions at the last scheduled meeting? Why are you not considering his actions as a whole, like you're saying should be done with the books? Can you see the hypocrisy there? If you think his actions are strong enough to warrant banning him from speaking in person or whatever you decided to do, shouldn't one excerpt that is obscene be enough to take a book off the shelves for minors? And if you're going to sanction one person for their actions concerning the book issue, are you not going to sanction the action of others? For those board members who feared what Mr. Cook did, what about the continued harassment from some of the board members of Families Against Book Bans? Truly, some of their behavior scares me, such as calling me a Nazi and nicknaming me Hausfrau. Is this done to instigate someone who is unstable to come after me? Or what about sharing my address on social media? The chair of FAB's husband did that, and she laughed about it. That is called doxing. Do you know what that is? Doxing is to search for or publish private or identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. Let me repeat that part, typically with malicious intent. Was it to scare me? Was it to get some whack job to come to my home and destroy my property or cause harm to me or my family? I may never know, but that damage of doxing is done. Tossing 8 bags of chicken feed on the stage in front of the board is minuscule compared to having your home address shared online. And those of you who keep voting to put the books back on the shelves are aligning yourselves with the people doing the harassment. I can assure you that what they have said is far worse than anything said by the people I'm associated with. Whether we agree or disagree on issues, we should never post things on social media that could potentially cause harm to another person. What happens if that whack job does harm to me and it was a result of seeing the defamatory things that are being posted online? Does the district have any liability because it was caused by a direct issue concerning them? Just some things for you to think about, to ponder, so that you don't look like hypocrites. Thank you.
Next, we have Isabella Cook. Her topic is school experience.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Rodriguez. I'm here today to talk about the absurd amount of stress I've had to endure at school. I would like to share my experiences as a student at one of the schools of Beaufort County School District. The past year was one of the most stressful school years of my entire school career, including being forced to take a secret survey without my parents' permission. Why a teacher is still employed after this abusive behavior is beyond my understanding. This especially after my teacher had the audacity to ask us to promise to keep the answers a secret. It was alarming to myself and many other students who were unfortunately too afraid to speak up. We've stressed the fact that there are no secrets between teachers and students. Another horrific experience was having to listen to a teacher talk about circumcision after coming across the word in an article about modern-day slavery. The definition of circumcision was not requested or asked for, however, it was volunteered. It happened in a previous class as well, the same day, which means it was premeditated and intended. This was not a health class. This teacher was also evading simple requests to meet and talk about what came out of her mouth. Days and weeks and even months go by, and this teacher does not want to have a meeting. Instead, the repeated behavior of the district hiding groomers continues. I am tired of being indoctrinated by these teachers who think pornographic and sexually explicit material in schools is okay. From an insider's perspective, it is not okay. I, along with many others, am done with all this nonsense being shoved down our throats. Remember, God is always watching. Thank you.
Next, we have Susanna Cook, topic books in school.
Good evening. My name is Susanna Cook, and I'm a mother of 2 children that currently attend Beaufort County schools. I find myself again in this spot, reminding you that when you decided to run for school board and were fortunate to be elected by your constituents, you assumed a moral obligation to uphold the Constitution and defend, above all, the safety of the over 20,000 children in the district. Now, putting your personal ideologies, personal agenda, and your personal safety ahead of these children is irresponsible and unacceptable. This is not the first time that you will hear this, and it will not be the last. We will continue telling you the same story until you do the right thing. Many options have already been given to you, and you continue to choose to ignore them. You continue to side with the wrong side and to cave to the loud masses that bully and want to impose on us what they think is the norm. You are all so much into technology and laptop devices. Well, why don't you just limit the access to these filthy books to the Zora reading app available in all the school computers? We're in the middle of the summer break, and this is a perfect time to clean house. Get the librarians to go through the books in the libraries and get rid of all books that have sexually explicit material. It is pretty simple. There are websites, just like our district library site, Destiny, that have books rated and samples of content. That garbage does not need to be in front of the eyes of innocent children. The constant push of this kind of content to minors damages their minds. It affects their future, and it makes them vulnerable to predators that lurk daily around them to abuse them. If you can, take a moment to watch the movie Sound of Freedom. You will be horrified. Now, don't think for a minute that because you all sit there as the school board, you are in an almighty position and get to decide on the life of our children. They are ours, not yours. And above all, they are the children of God, and God's children are not for sale. And guess what? My children are very proud of their father, and I am too. Thank you.
I'd like to remind the audience that is disruptive when you are making noise during someone's comments. Please refrain from that. We just read that and you all heard it, so you know what I'm talking about. Next up, we have David Cook. His topic is school policy.
Yeah, that's freaking terrible. Tough act to follow, let me tell you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Rodriguez and staff. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak. For the record, if you didn't see the video, it was a cornhole toss of chicken feed. Trust me, I've had enough practice. Did you catch on yet, though? Does anyone see how I just influenced policy in 2 weeks' time? This is how you should have moved last year when we pointed out the explicit books in schools. Why was your security policy influenced? Because you thought something impacted you personally when it really didn't. This is a sign of victimhood. Book review policy changes can happen just as fast. One application on the district devices will do it all, the Sora app. If a child can't access these books on the Sora app, it's likely because of their content. I know you're tired of me holding you accountable, and when I pointed out 2 weeks ago that you're too afraid to change policy and to remove sexually explicit books from the schools, you wanted to find a way to try to shut me up. And you wanted an excuse to get the public to hate me, so you implemented a policy against bags. That's fine, that's your prerogative, and I fully support your policy. You made it very clear why that policy was implemented, and you made it clear to the public who caused that policy to be changed. The reality is, it's your fault you had to change this policy. I've given you sound, constructive information, and it goes unheard. I'm not going to sit back and watch children in our school district be exploited. Keeping explicit materials does nothing. No one in this room can prove to me these explicit books improve reading proficiency at any level. I get it. You hate me so much that my wife's speech in Spanish from 2 weeks ago was intentionally garbled on the playback for at least 5 days after the meeting, and I don't know if it's been corrected. That's what you would call not being inclusive, because it's probably the first person that's spoken ever at a school board meeting in Spanish. If you think for 1 second that I'll learn a lesson from this, you're right. Now I'm going to fight harder for my kids. What you fail to understand is that there's a Supreme Court opinion that obligates you, under duty of law, to remove obscene materials from schools. You don't have a choice. That's right. You don't have a choice. And there's also a South Carolina State Attorney General opinion that supports that Supreme Court opinion of Island Trees versus Pico. You have the constitutional right to remove obscene material, and you have a duty under the law to do it. Here I have a list of 1,500 publications removed from our jails. That's right. They remove books from jails. Sexually explicit books with the same language these books have in our schools. The images that I gave to Mr. Grissom came from my son's device. I'd like you to take a look at them. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to take my wife and my children to Tractor Supply, and we're going to buy some baby chicks. And we're going to name them Christina, Angela, Dick, Carlton, William, Chloe, and Ingrid. Thank you.
We now have a participant remotely.
I'm calling one more time. They didn't answer, so I'm giving them one more chance. There's no answer.
Okay, thank you. That concludes first public comments. I have no additional comments under the chair report. I've already given my comments. Next up, we have the committee reports. Academic Chair Chloe Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Academics Committee met and we talked about the advancement via individual determination. There's a presentation by Dr. Stratus. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gordon, and thank you, Madam Chair. There were two presentations at Academic Committee on June 28th. I'm going to go through the first one, which would be referring to administrative regulations. So, Madam Chair and board members, this evening there is a quick review of updates to the administrative regulations, instructional services 31, advanced college placement courses, and AR 43, grading assessment systems. These updates were provided to the chair of the academic committee, Ms. Chloe Gordon, and committee members on June 28th. At this time, a motion was made by the committee to present the administrative regulations to the full board. Noting this, Mrs. Berry, thank you. Greatly appreciated. You're ahead of me, ma'am. Thank you. So board members, within your packets, you have two versions of each respective administrative regulation. One is referred to as red line. I'd like to go through that first quickly, and that's going to be advanced college placement. That is ARIS 31. If we look at page 1 at the very top, it's just a quick reference to the administrative regulation that it establishes a basic structure for Beaufort County School District. New at Roman numeral 2 for this regulation actually starts at the bottom of that paragraph. And it states schools should provide guidance and access to learning opportunities for all students. BCSD is committed to providing all students access to high-level courses and developing the full range of thinking skills by accessing these courses offered by the district. That is placed as a reminder to our schools with regard to providing accessibility. It was a recommendation at the committee. If we look further at Roman numeral 3, at the very end of that paragraph in Alpha A, it shares a reporting of exams. That reporting of exams, once it is closed, if they receive the grades at the close of the semester, students still receive the grade. Students are also responsible at that time, just on a sideline, to send their scores to their receiving universities. And let me give you an example of that. International Baccalaureate Diploma courses, students actually receive the grades. They are responsible to give us the grades at the school site in order for that to be put on their transcript. That is how that organization operates. It's the same thing with the AP exams, and we do get a full report so we can do some analysis. But with IB particularly, those reports go to the students. If you look down again on page 1 at the bottom, it really refers to an update on Project Lead the Way is now available as an honors level course. And that students, if we turn the page, you'll note that they may also have the opportunity to sit, for example, advanced placement computer science courses. What I want us to recognize, this is new for PLTW, which is Project Lead the Way, and that the curriculum that is provided prepares our students to sit for advanced placement courses. Excuse me. And again, I did leave out, these are high school credit courses that I am referencing at this point. If we go to page 3, I'd like us to look at Roman numeral 8, alpha C. That is a new addition. And what it is stating, quick in summary, is that our teachers who teach AP courses, IB courses, are to have a goal, professional development goal, that they're going to continue honing their craft so they could be up to date to the state approved syllabus. And if you look down into Roman numeral 9, number 3 within alpha A, we're sharing that schools must be basically timely at ordering exams. We're just trying to be fiscally sound. The last update is going to be on page 4, a recognition. And that is basically sharing that if there is a request for testing outside of the cycle, because we do not identify testing for advanced placement, nor do we identify the dates for IB testing. Those are designated by both the respective organization as well as Cambridge. So if someone is asking for testing outside of that window, it is going to be up to our state district testing coordinator in combination with that school principal regarding a late fee. Those are a quick summary on AR Instructional Services 31. You should have a complete one that is in draft without the red line as well in your packet. If we can kindly refer to Admin Regulation IS 43, I will ask your patience. It is a heavy one, but I will walk us through this quickly, only because most of the updates are within the same page area. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Gordon. On page 1, there are not many changes. Page 2, we're just referencing at the bottom end of course exam. Originally, it was written in an acronym form. But I'd like us to go directly to page 8, is where you will see a predominant amount of the updates in red. Thank you, Mrs. Cushenberry. If you look at page 8, Roman numeral 6, there is reference here regarding multilingual students cannot fail a course subject to language. There should be proper interventions and instructional practice provided. If we go to Roman numeral, and I apologize, that was Roman numeral 6, Roman numeral 8, credit recovery. The language is added in there regarding following the state statute. Let me give you an example. State statute requires if a student of a 50 or less who has failed a course is sitting for a Carnegie unit course and they want credit recovery, that has to have the permission of the principal, and there is a form that must be completed and signed off. School council alone cannot do that. We want to assure that the students sitting for credit recovery have enough of the core content before they go sit in front of a computer-based learning. If we go down further into Roman numeral 9, the language there in red refers to our honors framework. We have brought forward 2 honors framework courses in the past, and we're just saying that if it is an honors framework, honors course, we are to follow what the state says. Deeper knowledge, deeper rigor. We just don't write a syllabus and call it an honors course. We must have integrity of course. I'd like us to look at page 12 and 13. This is where we have the language adage for career technical education regarding students of eligibility for dual enrollment courses for CTE with the Technical College of the Low Country. And it continues for the eligibility for courses at USCB. The language needed to be added because it wasn't in the administrative regulation. So that was part of the update that was provided at Academic Committee. And that is a quick summary, board members, of the 2 administrative regulations that we brought forward on June 28th. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I know I do remember asking a specific question.
Let's go back to that administrative regulation.
Okay.
Yes, sir. and that would be the administrative regulation, I believe 31. Let me just catch up with you, Mr. Smith. So we look at page 1 on the red line of Administrative Regulation IS 31. Please refer to Roman numeral 2. The language that we put in there is that we provide opportunities for students. So should a student come forward and say that we're taking that opportunity, then we're not following the regulation.
Okay,
Okay.
so does that take care of it? So that.
Yes, sir.
At the
Yes,
school
sir.
level.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
And
I
well,
just wanna-
it at the school level and as well at the district level, because then it will come to my office.
Right.
And this will be presented and discussed with our high school principals on July 26th.
Okay, and I just want just for point of clarification, just so that the people in the community can know exactly what you and I are talking about.
Yes, sir.
Basically, my question was in terms of when students go to sign up to take honors courses, that there is not due to an administrator to make that assumption or that decision whether he or she's able to have that opportunity. So therefore, now we've brought it up to speed as she just outlined, and I thank you for doing that, because that had been brought to my attention, and that was a community concern, and I had to go off to you. I thank you for making that right.
I appreciate that, Mr. Smith. We wordsmithed that at length to put this into light to say that we provide the opportunities for learning and growth.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't want to put it into a sense that we don't, because we do.
All right.
But now we have it in the regulation that we have a point that we can have reference to our schools as well, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
Next, we have Ingrid Boatwright.
Thank you. Dr. Strauss, is there any way, this comes up sometimes, to see how the weighted grading is calculated? So especially since there's a little, with this project Lead the Way, is there a way to see right now, you can see that, there was 1 credit earned in an honors class, but the unweighted GPA is a 3 something. Is there a way to see what the weighted GPA is?
So with that, within this AR, I may not have it to those specifics, but what I can provide is our accountability team to come forward, Mrs. Boatwright, and provide that information. I do not have them with me. I apologize. I went off mic, but I do not have them with me this evening. But within the AR, it does give an example on the weighting of the CP to honors, but I do not have the impact of the college weighting. Noted, ma'am.
What I'm more getting at is how can parents see so if your child took an AP class, for example, and got a 92, what does that translate into? Because it gets very confusing on the 4, 5, 6 point scale. And as I understand it, you can only see the unweighted grade, but there is not an option to see the weighted grade. Is there a way to see the weighted grade on a child's report card?
I don't want to speak out of line, ma'am. So what I would ask, great, and I could bring this up at academic committee for agenda, I could have personnel actually bring this question forward and do a presentation.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Gordon, do you have anything else?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing else at this time. Any questions from our? Being that there are no questions. Thank you.
Ready for part 2?
Okay, next item is in the superintendent's report. And as Ms. Chloe mentioned earlier, part of a discussion in academic committee was regarding AVID, which is achievement via individual determination. And so this is what our team was going to present. So she allowed us to cover that during our superintendent's report at this time. So Dr. Stratos.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. And again, Madam Chair and board members, I appreciate this opportunity to share information with the full board. This segment of the presentation consists of 2 items. A quick presentation regarding advancement via individual determination, also known as AVID. This was presented at the June 28th academic committee. This is an adage to that presentation. The second part will just be a quick summary on an executive summary that you have for the local board approved courses that we are seeking your approval in order that we could embed this program at Beaufort Middle School.
With that, I do have the honor of bringing forward our principal from Beaufort Middle, known as Dee Dee, but Mrs. Thompson, I do greatly appreciate your opportunity of sharing your knowledge. Thank you.
So sorry. Madam Chair, Dr. Gwatz, good evening.
Good evening.
Vice Chair Colonel Guyer, good evening as well. Members of the board, Dr. Rodriguez, senior staff, thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to bring forth this program. It is actually a reiteration, a rebirth, so to speak, of this program in this district, and I'm absolutely excited to bring this to you this evening, and I do hope that it is something that we can implement at Beaufort Middle School. Tonight, I want to tell you a little bit about AVID and why we are so excited to bring that forth. And to do that, if you would, Mrs. Cushing-Berry, go to the next slide. I just want to start with a little bit of a personal adage. I wish I had been an AVID student. I am, as you know, a product of Beaufort County School District. I am intelligent. I was listed in the gifted and talented programs, et cetera. And as a child, as I was matriculating through schools, learning came pretty easily until the rigor changed. As I became that middle school student, that high school student, as I later went on to become that college student, I started realizing I did not know how I learned or what strategies I could use to leverage my potential to exceed. AVID does that for our students. If you'll look at the screen, you'll see that AVID has a history of success that spans 40 years of supporting student achievement. It's about creating those opportunities. I had folks that came alongside me as a student and helped me. But I have to ask, what if? What if I had not had that opportunity? How many of us have that opportunity, or don't have that opportunity? And what is the impact of that? At its core, AVID is a secondary program. It does help to prepare our students to attend a four-year college or enter the career force upon graduation. 95% of our students graduate, or who of AVID graduates, I apologize, enroll in college. But it's not just a program, it's a mindset, it's a system with predictable results, a system with data that supports its success, and it's a system that we would love to implement in our building as we go forth with branding who we are. So why AVID? Why Beaufort Middle School? Why now? As you know, we're coming out of the pandemic. I know I said a bad word, but along with that, we have so many things that have impacted our students, and we're going to have some learning strides that we're going to have to make to close some of those gaps that might have been brought about by that pandemic. In addition, our own data speaks to a need to support our students. Upon my tenure at Beaufort Middle School, I went into those classrooms. I spoke to those students. I spoke to our teachers. I spoke to our parents. In those classrooms, there's a bunch of mini-me's. People who have all of that potential, but just don't know how the science of learning or why this sticks and this evaporates the minute they leave that teacher's classroom. We need to change that. They need something more. AVID provides that structure and that framework to support our learners. If you'll go to the next slide, Mrs. Cushing-Berry, you'll see that AVID supports our students through 4 domains. You'll see instruction, it provides systems, it provides leadership, and it provides culture. It doesn't just support our students, it provides us an opportunity to support our teachers and to build teacher capacity and efficacy. That turns out to create agency and ownership amongst our stakeholders, from the students in the chairs and the parents to the teachers who teach them. That collective agency is powerful. And this is a great opportunity, a great time to leverage that agency amongst our stakeholders. I'm going to, because I'm brief and those who know me most know that that was a very hard thing to do. I do want to tell you a little bit. I want to take a little bit of time to tell you about what our team has done thus far. We're just returning back from Florida, where I took a leadership team to the Summer Institute for AVID to learn more and to get initial training. While I was there, I met Imani. She's on the screen there. We were coming back from lunch and she was standing by her poster as an AVID student. So of course I'm going to ask, because if you look at Imani, without breaking too many rules, kind of looks like she's still a student. And she was just talking a mile a minute. And when I told her that we were going to hopefully be a middle school model and an AVID school, she said, "It's great. It's what saved me. I became the best student because of AVID, and now I hope to be the best teacher." She is now teaching in Florida in the same district where she was an AVID student. I had to get a picture. You'll see another student quote up there, and I will leave you with that. "I use AVID strategies every day, even when not in school. I feel more confident, have less anxiety, and know that I can do anything I want and succeed." As a parent, as an educator, I can't ask for anything more. So I do ask for your support as we go forward with AVID.
Colonel Guyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really interesting, but let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Does AVID teach you what your learning style is? Like if you're a kinesthetic learner, an audio learner, a visual learner, so you understand how you want to receive instructions and how you react to instructions? Is that part of this?
The short answer is yes. So AVID supports students not only through a 5-part strategy: writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. So in the organizational piece, that's the part you're talking about. How I learn, how I know what I know. There's a metacognitive piece to that. So that's bang up. I know several folks who are in part, graduate school and on, and they still don't know those things. So equipping students with the power to leverage that now, of course, gives us bigger gains later. But yes, the short answer, to go back to what you were asking, is yes.
Dr. Rodriguez.
As you can see by the graph on page 4, or the picture on page 4, this is something that I feel I support very strongly and want to share with you, because you notice in there culture, systems, and instruction. Culture, systems, and instruction. The moment I got here, I've been talking about culture, systems, and instruction. AVID has a profound impact on students. The answer to your question, as she said, is yes, but in its name is achievement via individual determination. And that individual part is knowing who you are as a learner and how you learn best, right? That's a significant part of it. I think the last thing I would say is that in a prior district where Dr. Stratos and I came from, Dr. Stratos began some of the work at a middle school that she was principal at and I supervised around AVID. She went on to become a high school principal, and the person who came in followed up and continued that work because of the positive impact we were having, and went on to become a national demonstration site for AVID. And so AVID sends people from across the country to that site to see AVID in its implementation. And so I say to Dee, I think you're on the right track, but I also think that doing it with fidelity is so important.
Yes.
Because you want that recognition of trying to land yourself, and it takes years, but as a national demonstration site, because they will come in and review with a rubric how that is operating and functioning. The AVID program will, and land yourself as a national demonstration site. I think would be a great tribute to your work there. So.
Yes, and to your point, part of our supervision as the site leader would be to make sure that there's alignment in that work, that we're not just saying Avid for the sake of Avid, but ensuring that all of those strategies that we're helping our students to embrace are things that we're seeing evidenced in our classrooms through walkthroughs, that we're monitoring that data, that we truly are implementing with fidelity and making site-based decisions that are in the best interest of students and that the data says they need.
Mr. Dallas.
So we will trade places.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a couple more.
Sure.
This is a really exciting program, and I'm new to the educational system. The more I study and read and try to research, the more I realize that culture and individualized targeting of a student is really important. Very simple question: is this going to be expanded? Because it seems like it has so much utility.
Mr. Dallas,
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that question. Let me give you a little background. When Mrs. Thompson shared with each of you that when she first arrived at Beaufort Middle, she walked the classrooms. We started conversation back in October of 22. That conversation led us to land, hey, have you thought about this? And that's when I presented the idea of Avid. At that time, I made a commitment, as she made a commitment, to pilot this by making the opportunity to have an instructor available for the elective class. So my commitment to the school is to help with the professional development, with the fee, to make sure that we are in fidelity of practice, because there's an annual review. We get a report card on this program. There's a program and evaluation that's conducted. My goal is that we have this at another school. Working with one of our executive directors who is traveling at this time for a school that is off a corridor of 278. You take a bridge, you go over some water, and that would be my goal. And then to have this happen also in the Bluffton area. But I have to assure that I have the commitment from the school site that an instructional unit is available for us, because the students will have to engage into an Avid elective course. And I hate to use the word elective because it really becomes a core course for the students to really take their ownership and agency of learning. And that's where that instructional unit is necessary. And we were able to work that relationship out over the year with her master's schedule. We made a commitment. We made a partnership. Trying to make some more. Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you for your work. In the questioning and of Abbott, if you were a salesman and I were buying a product, can you tell me from what you know of Abbott, what would make me buy this versus Leader in Me?
Versus what?
Leader in Me.
Oh, I'll give you an example. So Leader in Me in itself has culture and academics. We have a predominant amount of schools who are doing what I call Lens Leader in Me.
Right.
Avid adds another component into the academics for the students for more of the secondary model. So you get to a point that I've been in Leader in Me, and we have Leader in Me in Battery Creek that does a phenomenal job. But this is the identity that Mrs. Thompson chose for her school and her campus that makes it unique to Beaufort Middle versus Ladies Island and Ladies Island Elementary. This is the package that she felt that fits her environment. So as a salesman, I may want to be driving, I drive an Acura. You may want to drive a Lexus. That's what fits you. So this is what fits Mrs. Thompson. Not that I'm going to sell you all the other bells and whistles with that vehicle, sir. I do promise I won't.
Okay.
But if I could add to that as well, and I know we do it at Battery Creek. As we grow this program, should we have that direction happening for us as a board? I've seen this program shift lives on young children. When I say young, I'm speaking young adults. I've seen athletes who felt that they couldn't do it, get into full scholarship rides into great colleges. So both programs are very good. But this is what's fitting Beaufort Middle. It also gives an opportunity for a little difference in competitive when you're looking at choice. She has Avid, you have Leader in Me. I may choose a choice into this school. I have to look at it from a business model as well, sir. Right? Too much of the same thing. Well, the consumer may want some choices. This may be a choice for their child or their child get into Beaufort Middle for Abbott as well. Because eventually we will come forward to you with a request for a choice program.
And saying that, I'm glad you brought that up. My concern or my question is too, you know, in terms of most effective and cost effective as well, but well, not necessarily cost effective, but most effectively, my question is in terms of our menu. I just want to make sure that we're putting the best thing on the menu for all kids, and that, you know, if certain programs, I don't understand certain programs do tailor towards certain communities and towards certain schools, but I just want to make sure that we are that we're just not just shopping. And I know you would, that we're just not just shopping different things because we see them on the menu, because there's times I go to restaurants and I want 2 or 3 appetizers, but my stomach, I look at my stomach says you don't need that. So I just want to make sure that we are definitely making sure that we're sticking to that we're not enlarging our menu because we can.
I'll address that first.
No, I think one of the things that both Dr. Stratos and I can speak to is experience with this program. So this isn't just shopping around for another program. This is identified success of a program implemented at a school, one that I supervised, 2 that she ran, and 3, the results that we saw from it, looking at what Dee Dee's needs were and what she was bringing forward to the table. And we saw a match in it there that worked well. So it's not just this isn't just let me just find another program and we'll just throw it up there and see how people feel, right? We happen to know that when implemented with fidelity and done well, that you have a program that does achieve results.
Right. And I could definitely say anytime that one thing that I would definitely give Dr. Stratos is that I know when she brings something forward, she's just not bringing it forward to shop, but she know how I am about the menu. I just want to make sure that we have when we go to serve those entrees, that we giving our steak, that we got the best daggone steak, because it might not be filet mignon. It may be the center of it. I just want to make sure that we are looking at the best piece for every school, and I applaud you for stepping up and saying that your school needs something different. But I just want to make sure that is there's something that's going to move the district as a whole as well forward. Thank you.
Victor Ney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am curious, if it's such a great program, why did it go away? It sounds, I don't know. But if it is such a great program, why is there an application process? Why do kids have to apply for it? I mean, why aren't we instituting it universally across the school?
I'll take your first question. I'll let you take the second question. The first question, such a great program, why does it go away? I'll call your attention to slide 4, and I'll call your attention to the bottom left-hand quadrant. Leadership. Somewhere along the line, leadership at that school along the way saw something else that they wanted to head towards or run to. And so, and maybe there wasn't fidelity in implementation. So maybe they didn't see the results that maybe they could have seen, right? Because that fidelity part is important. That's why I like in this program that they come and assess you every year with a rubric on your fidelity of implementation, So it's not the kind of thing that a dog and pony show would fix, because these people are going around the country observing over and over again. They see dog and pony shows, right? So they'll tell you where your strengths and where your weakness are with the implementation and application of this program. That would be my response to the first part of your question, and I'll let you tackle the second.
Well, now I'm going to have to ask you to reiterate the second part, because I just have an add-on to the first part. It was a Gear Up grant that was instituted here in the district some time ago, and then it was a choice not to keep funding supporting that. My hope and goal is to be able to apply for a Gear Up grant a second time. We actually qualified a few of our feeder patterns. That cycle for that grant will come public. It was supposed to be this spring. They now said the RFP will be available in November for funding for the upcoming 24 academic school year, but it just is not available yet. But my eye is on that for a Gear Up grant, hopefully be able to do 2 additional feeder programs, because I'd like to see this have a feeder model as well. If you could reiterate the second question, sir, please.
Well, thank you. That was going to be my follow-on question is what was the cost of the legacy? But the second question was if it's such a great program, why is there an application process? Why is it not being universally implemented across the school?
Because the student has to make a commitment as well. My commitment is that I am going to actually have, and Mrs. Thompson didn't go into it, but I will keep a binder. I will show my organization. I am going to have my binder from one class to the next. I am going to give up maybe another elective class in order to take this class. I've had students who have been in band, who have been athletes, okay, and have been in avid classes, but they may have had to give up some other track that they wanted to do in order to be in this course. So there is a commitment. And as you get in high school, your choices get narrower and narrower what's available for you. At the middle school right now, there are a few more choices. We have a 7-period day. But as you go forward, so that's part of the application process. What is your commitment to saying, I'm going to keep my GPA? I'm making a commitment that I will be doing tutoring. If I am an athlete, I'm going to go to tutoring before I go out in the field and work out. There is a whole list of commitments that I, as a student, will make to be in this course. Because if I don't live up to this, I'm saying that I may walk away from that community, because you do become another community within the school. It almost becomes a school. And Mrs. Gordon is shaking her head because she was part of this at a previous point in her life. So it's a commitment that the learner makes as well. So there is, and it's a parent signs that contract. That is not accepted without parent being part of that interview process. I don't do it without my parent. And the schools have to set up a panel of interviewees, and a schedule of interviews are set up.
Thank you.
So if I may, if I can have the LBA brought up, and for each of you board members, it is just a quick executive summary sheet. I will just quickly show it to you to refer to it. I'd like to share it to you. We will be starting at 6th and 7th grade. It results with 2 local board approved courses for consideration as you as board members. The description of it is actually on the executive summary. And as I shared with Mr. Smith, as we go forward to seeking for this to be a choice program as well for Beaufort Middle, because I do have to keep a business mindset that this is a competitive edge. And I like to get as many students back in to our school system. On your agenda, board members, you do have, yes, ma'am.
You and I are going to get the same point.
Yes,
Colonel
ma'am.
Guyer.
Madam Chair, I move the board approve the adoption of the local board approved courses 6th and 7th grade AVID electives.
Ms. Gordon, second the motion. Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Vote right,
Hey,
aye.
I.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chair and board members, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It looks like next on our agenda is board business action. Colonel Guyer.
Madam Chair, I move the board accept the access easement on Robert Small's Leadership Academy property as shown on the plat of pump station parcel and access easement to Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority, and authorize the superintendent to finalize easement documents. And this second,
Okay.
this is informed at the Operations Committee last night, and Mr. Yeah, it's okay. Mr. Robert will
All right, so Robin, did you
explain.
get that, yeah, Dick made the motion and Carlson seconded. Thank you, Robert.
So if you'll see the memo that I provided you, the existing school has a pump station that Beaufort Jasper owns. It's right behind the kitchen service yard, and you can see the little dot there in yellow. As we're built, that area is going to become the new play field. And so we're having to relocate it, and you'll see there's a color that's peach right off the main road, and that's the new location. So what we're basically doing here is once we build this, it will be turned over to Beaufort Jasper. They will own it. This easement gives them access via that roadway to that station. That is all we're providing. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those for you.
Mr. Smith?
And also, just for the record, for public, you do state that in order to get water in the school, that for them to start with the water in the school, that we would need to give them this easement as well. That's what we're stating at the operations committee, correct?
Yes, that's why I'm coming directly to the board, is because we need to get this approval so we can get this set so they'll turn our water on. So, which is important to open the school.
Mr. Dallas?
I think from the clock days, I think this topic came up some time ago where the partnership with the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority is very good, and they've helped us ameliorate other hurdles in other locations. So this is us repaying.
All right. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Boatright, aye.
Hay, aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chair, I move the board accept the anonymous donation to Red Cedar for the replacement of faculty exterior sign, computer, and graphic in the amount of $7,000.
Second.
Who said the second? Okay, Mr. Smith, second the motion. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Boatright, aye.
Hay, aye.
Motion carries unanimously, and the board personally thanks the anonymous donor for this wonderful gift. We now need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion made by Will Smith, second by Earl Campbell. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Boatright, aye.
Hay, aye.
The consent agenda is approved unanimously. Any future agenda topics? Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am. School uniforms.
All right. Okay. Next on our agenda, announcements, Dr. Rodriguez.
No.
Oh,
Not
okay.
this time.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, well, actually, I did have a question under it was under the chairman's report. I was wondering, normally when the superintendent goes out of town, did we get a notification, or I don't know if he was out of town, but did we get a notification about the last meeting about the superintendent in terms of how did that work in terms of what was that process? Because I know that I'm not sure if you knew, but when I came to the board meeting, I was looking for him, and I just wanted to understand how as board, what's our process of understanding. I know that Ms. Walton stepped in last time, but just moving forward.
Okay, so this really is not on our agenda right this minute, but you certainly can. I'll be happy to answer your question, and Dr. Rodriguez can address it. But that doesn't really apply to our agenda for FOIA reasons. So okay,
thank you.
All right. Next up, we have the second public comments, and we have Don Timms, pornography and library. Hold on, Mr. Timms, you're going to sit at the table like all the other speakers, and we're going to move the podium out of the way.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time and opportunity to address the board today. Now, I'm not a librarian, so based on my engineering background, I did the appropriate thing. I consulted two librarians and gave them some samples. And the comments that I got back, first of all, was shock. And secondly, no literary value. So I think the folks here are not in the process of trying to ban books, but rather to keep our children's and our youth's minds from being totally distorted. Grooming is one term that I've heard. And we have a process for review of these books. I reviewed with 7 others, supposedly. We only had 5 or 6 when we met, but incredibly close and extremely loud. I've got them mixed up, but it's something like that. And we all agreed that there was some literary information in there that could be read, but it's about a child that is on the autism spectrum, let's put it that way. And basically, with the grandparents making noises in the bedroom, so to speak, probably not appropriate for 10-year-olds, but certainly high school children could read it. So restrict it to that level. There's other books with absolutely, like I said, no literary value that should be kept out of the libraries. And every book that you have in there that should not be there takes up space, takes up dollars, takes up librarian time. So I've heard, well, if you remove the book, then everybody's going to want to read it. Well, not if it's removed, not if they can't find it. And if you all want to authorize parents to go get it out of the public library, that's the parents' job. It's not yours. So pull them out, get rid of them, and get them gone. And I thank you for your time.
We now have a public commenter remotely, and Robin, just remember to, please remind them to state their name and topic.
Had been for over 20 years. My husband is a teacher, and he's been a teacher for almost 20 years. He has a master's degree in education, and I have 3. We are parents of 4, and we are so damn tired. I am so tired of fighting against this district. From a district teacher taking photos of my child's rear end on her personal cell phone, to a school conveniently forgetting that we've opted our children out of SEL surveys, and to being ignored when repeatedly volunteering to be on book review committees, I am tired. I trust my children not to take out books that are pornographic. I have followed this board's procedures, yet my children, unbeknownst to them, have been able to take books from their school libraries in this district that are pornographic, even with our opt-out forms submitted. Now, on top of that, our daughters face a book having to do with anal sex during their junior year at May River. That means it is part of the curriculum. Yes, I could have them removed from the class during the discussions of this novel. But why should my children be removed because an adult educator feels the need to discuss anal sex with minors? I understand where David Cook is coming from. He's tired. So many of us are tired. I have gone to the principals, the superintendent, the board, I have gone to the sheriff and I have gone to our senators. I have spoken with the governor's office and I have spoken with Ellen Weaver and her office. I am tired, but I am not done. I have joined Gays Against Groomers as an ally because that is exactly what this district is allowing, grooming. I am working in tandem with them to establish a way to have these inappropriate materials removed from our schools permanently. I'm tired, but now I have backup. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's try the one other remote person. Thank you. That concludes our second public comment session. There being no objections, we will now adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you and good evening.